Yo, let's rank these board brands. Just ranking tier list style brands that are still making boards right now. And so let's do it. Let's start with Zenit, whatever it is. I don't know how to say it. Zenit Longboards. They are a company out of Canada. I want to say Montreal, Quebec, something like that. It's on the east side. And they make some interesting boards. They kind of have a more minimalist vibe. You can see with their graphics. When I look at the Marble, one of their more popular boards, single kick, double kick version as well. If you look at this graphic, it's like this kind of, I don't know, kind of bamboo soft forest kind of vibe with this very, very minimal graphic right here. This kind of pencil on paper style image here. And honestly, kind of a Japanese almost style. I mean, just looking at the font here, almost looks very handwritten. I will say, shapes, pretty sick. This shape right here, this new board they have, the Stinger, this nose is excellent. Really like it. And the tail, I don't know if I'm huge on the tail, but I will say I don't think I've seen a tail like this, and it's not bad. It's not a bad tail. It's not like my favorite thing ever, but it's pretty cool. And I would say if they're doing like, that's like their little race board kind of thing, I think it's one of the better looking ones. I'm into it. Some of their other stuff, they're kind of chunky. The Rocket's got a cool nose, very geometric right here. Same with the end. It's a little more hard lines, hard corners. I like that. I always like when people do that. It doesn't have to be smooth everywhere. Like the Marble, this one's kind of like that smooth everywhere kind of transitions, very soft curves, things like that. I don't like it as much. It's kind of generic looking in its shape. But overall, Zenit's pretty cool. I would say like their weaker point is I don't really like, I can't think of a single rider on Zenit. That's definitely the weak point, is I just like can't think of anybody who rides for Zenit. And if you want like a strong brand image, the people you choose to be on your team, not only do you choose them for their riding, but also because they are personality-wise what you want your brand to look like. So Zenit, they're getting, let's see, let's put them in the B tier for right now. I respect them. I like their shapes generally, especially the Stinger. Really good looking board. Yeah, I don't know. Not much graphic here. I'm not really that into these super minimal ones. And yeah, the team. Let's do Omen. So Omen, huge brand in like 2014, around that time. Really have dropped off though. Pretty sure they are under new ownership now. They still have some of their old boards, but it seems crazy low effort. They come across as just doing this to make some money. I don't know if that's really how it is, but it's how it feels, because they haven't made a new board. Like, they haven't designed a new board outside of a graphic in very long time. This one right here, this Omen Roswell Rat Rod, that was the Grim. This Trickster Dominator, such a bad name for a board. What were they thinking? That was the Dreadnought, I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, no, that might have been the Barbarian. That one's the Barbarian. So these boards, they haven't redesigned them. They haven't come out with an original idea. They're still riding off of like the Omen hype from the mid 2010s. And these aren't even, like, this graphic is not good. This one, I get frustrated when I see this. This looks like so low effort to me. It's just, there's like, I don't know. That's kind of frustrating to see Omen there, because they used to have like a really solid image. They were like the Suburban Boys. They were really goofy. They were all big Thane lines and Thaners. They made really goofy videos. Pretty much Nate Blackburn's brainchild was Omen, and they had a really good identity, but now it's straight trash now. D tier, dungeon tier, not good. Let's do Alternative. Alternative is a brand that, like, I don't know if it's just because I'm a Midwest guy, but I've never seen somebody skate an Alternative board. They are a European brand, I'm pretty sure. I'm not actually sure on that. I think they're European, though. But if you look at, let's go to their riding style downhill. If you go to their boards, I will say, so I can't really speak on, like, the concave, but they have the most amount of graphics for boards I've ever seen. This one, this shape right here, this like double kick thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm not going to count them all. There's what looks like 20, 25 graphics for a single board. So I feel like their big like draw is that you get to pick from one of these immense amount of graphics. Like, I think this one's pretty cool. This kind of like this city, they call it Cat. It's kind of like this cityscape. I don't know what these are, these wiener things floating through. And then I really like this next one, is probably my favorite graphic that they have. This one, there's like several of them. This one I think is very sick. Right here, this kind of cartoony, it almost looks like a children's book or like a, it looks like the same style of that one comic book, My Friend Dahmer. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if I'm remembering that right. I don't know. Alternatives, they're okay. They're not really doing much for me because I don't really know them very well. I also, again, like Zenit, can't think of a single rider on their team. I know there's like this one European guy. It's a big generalization, I'm sorry, but yeah, we're gonna go B tier on Alternative, kind of middle of the road. Also, Jake Ballantyne, which is a smart move because if you want to really like promote your brand and get people to buy your boards, then you got to make good videos. So not only should your team rider be somebody who is good at skating, but it's a huge bonus if you can get somebody who is good at filming and editing, because they're going to consistently put out footage where they feature your boards, which sells boards. It's great. I mean, they have a huge like iconic lineup. The Demon Seed, Nemesis, all of those boards. The Mitch Pro is sick. I've stood on one of those. I like it a lot. I haven't stood on like the Skyline or the new. You know what's interesting is that Jake Ballantyne board is not on here. Stray. Oh, there it is. Missed it. They don't have the graphic. They kind of messed that up. The only thing I do not like this board. This Libido. I've stood on it before. I just do not like the. It's this. It's like the 3-plane rocker that they have here. Did not like it. Does not feel good to me. It is like there's like you can see there's no concave in these spots right here. I don't know. It also feels like really aggressive in the humps, and I don't know. Wasn't it for me. Rayne's gonna go A tier though. They have a pretty good team. I feel like if they had a better team and maybe like if they had a stronger brand identity, they're still like if you go on YouTube and watch their videos, they still have this weird like cyberpunk outro that doesn't feel like it works with their brand very much. If you look at the deck designs and the graphic designs, they don't match it at all. So I feel like they could work on that. A tier for Rayne, really awesome brand, not quite as good as others though. Let's do Madrid. Madrid, that you can barely see the logo of. Madrid is one of the brands that is making all types of boards, and they have been making all types of boards forever. These old shaped like 80s style decks as well, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're looking at their downhill stuff, which they have several different brands. So if you look at their brands, they used to manufacture Valhalla, they manufacture Prism. So if we look at their most recent lineup, which one thing that should be noted about Madrid that I think is so cool that I wish other brands would do too, is they release multiple boards at a time like it's a lineup, like Sector 9 used to do, where they would release like 4, 5, 6, even like 7 boards at a time. And each board had like its own specific identity because of that, because you were looking at, okay, what's all the differences between them. So we've got the Snitch, we've got Harry Clark's board, we have the Zach Madem, the Leadfoot, we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't really think this is much of a downhill board, but we have these 6 boards that they release all at the same time. I think it's very cool. I think it's an awesome idea to do it that way. It gets people really excited about him. I definitely enjoy it. One downside of this brand, especially with this lineup, is these graphics are not good. This graphic here, it's supposed to look like a card, you know, like you're looking at like a deck of cards or something, but it just looks very empty. This part here, where it just kind of fades out like spray paint, doesn't look professional. It's not very artistic looking. It almost looks like they like had an entire image and then they put the deck on the image and they only have like a third of what the full image is. It just doesn't seem to work with this shape of this board. Also, I'm not gonna lie, this shape is extremely bizarre to me. But this is probably the only board that I kind of have that issue with, at least the shape wise. This Trap Star tail is very sick, love it. I like the Motorist a lot. I usually don't like it when something has kind of like this waist that flares slightly back out at the tail, but I think it works for this. I think it probably has to do with the fact that there's a tail back there. Again, this is not a good graphic. This looks like promotional material for Too Fast, Too Furious with like off-brand versions of these cars. I'm honestly surprised they're able to make these, because this Skyline doesn't look off-brand. This just looks like a Nissan Skyline. This definitely looks off-brand S2000 and weird Supra over here, but it doesn't look good either. That looks like promotional material, which is kind of common with Madrid. They do these little, like, you know, they've done like their collab for like Stranger Things, which is fine. I'm sure they sell tons of them and that's why they do it, but it's a little cringe because it's something that's completely outside of the skateboarding world and they're like putting it in to sell boards. Whatever. That's kind of besides the point, but these collabs are kind of weird to see. So Madrid is going to go A tier. They also, I didn't mention, they have a sick team. They've a good group of not only racers, but they also have some free riders, Ethan Ledger. But I mean, their racing team is huge. Like, there's like probably 4 or 5 top tier racers in the world that are on their team. And that's, you know, that's what, I mean, a lot of downhill right now is people focus on the racing. So it's important if you want to, right now, if you want your brand to be pretty recognized, because people watch racing pretty close right now. Moonshine. Moonshine, their whole thing at first was about their construction and about how they built boards that have urethane sidewalls all around the rails, how they're laminated with fiberglass so that they are waterproof, basically. The only issue with that is that if you curb the board and the urethane rails don't do their job, which seems to be pretty common, then all of a sudden all the wood on the inside is exposed, which renders it completely susceptible to the elements, susceptible to rain, and it ruins the board, just like any other board. So they were, you know, they charge a lot more for their boards, $250, $300 in this case. I don't know, these ones look like they're sold out, so it's hard to know how much they are. But they're charging a lot, and it doesn't really seem like the construction is actually that effective. Another thing that I'm not really into with them is their brand identity with their riders. So I can only think of one rider that rode or rides for them, and it's Brandon Desjarlais. This is board, the Prescrito. It's a decent looking board. I think it's actually one of their better looking boards, but his whole vibe feels extremely influencer to me. And even though he is, you know, a good skater, he is come up in the community. It's not like he's coming from outside, but he kind of has this vibe of influencer, and it doesn't really seem genuine. And that's kind of what I think of when I think of Moonshine boards. Also, this hoot shape is so bad. The huge waist that goes in like this. It's like, looks like it goes like a ½ inch smaller, even maybe even more, like a whole inch thinner at the waist. That is not a very good brick shape. I'm not into it. Yeah, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of moonshine going in the dungeon to me. Dungeon tier, D tier. Let's do landyachtz. Landyachtz is extremely well respected. Newbies like landyachtz. OGs like landyachtz. They've been around for a really long time. I think the mid-90s even. You can find really old boards somewhere on Craigslist from landyachtz. But they make tons and tons of different types of boards, and they make a lot of videos too. One thing about their media is it's extremely friendly feeling without being kind of cringe. It's very quirky, I'll say. It feels like old school Enjoy boards, like street decks. That's what it feels like when I watch a video. They have a really great team. They've got Dex Manning. They have, oh my god, what is this dude's name? Clayton Arthurs. Clayton Arthurs. I love watching Clayton Arthurs. He's a great skater. Could watch him do spins on easy hogs all day. This board is a great design. The graphic is really fun. It actually has a bit of a story behind it with his first car, his PT Cruiser, which is funny in and of itself. Goes with their whole theme. This freedive reef, extremely nice to look at. Also pretty good shape, I'll say. Honestly, all around, I can't really complain too much. They have racers. Oh my god, Dane Hanna. I forget about Dane Hanna. I mean, overall, really cool lineup. Landyachtz going in the S tier. S tier for landyachtz. Landyachtz is sick. I like landyachtz a lot. Let's do Rocket. We'll do Rocket next. So, okay, so Rocket is a brand that is a European brand. I want to say they're Swiss. And Rocket's got a lot of love in the community. People really like Rocket boards, and when you stand on their boards, they feel right, because I feel like they put a lot of thought into their concave. And I think they put a lot of thought into pretty much everything about their board building. But my kind of main complaint about them is that, like, this is going to sound kind of contradictory, but it almost feels like there's, like, too much thought sometimes put into these. Like, I don't know. I mean, okay, so for one, like, they make good boards, okay? Like, this shape, this rhino, this is a good board. You've got really cool looking concave. You've got a really good shape too. I like the way this nose is shaped, where it, you know, it's really the taper starts not right at the nose. It starts a little before. But some of these shapes are not good. Like this Phoenix thing. This isn't. I don't like these pointed nose, but then they have. It's the waist. I think it's the waist that does it for me. They're just. There's so much waist, and it makes it feel like. It makes it feel like whenever they design one of these boards, they're like designing it with like a calculator to try and get like every little ounce of performance out of them. And that gives off this like, this kind of, you know, the feeling of like the guy who's at the session who like needs to tweak every little thing to get it just right. Like he puts a 2-degree wedge on the front just to get like the extra little tiny bit. I don't know. That's not like what I'm looking for when I'm into skateboarding. I would rather somebody just like throw what they have, and that's not kind of like the feeling here. This is like the most tuned possible setup feeling. I don't know though, I'm conflicted because like they are definitely super good boards. Like they're really well made, they're well designed. It's just like their vibe kind of throws me off a little. I mean, it's kind of interesting is David Boubier is recently on their team, and he's got this new deck, the Rooster, and David is like the most just not caring about like every little ounce of performance, you know, which is kind of like what it, like I said, what I feel like is the vibe of Rocket. So I think it surprised a lot of people when David joined their team, just because he like doesn't really seem to fit in with that kind of style. I mean, if you look at the graphics too, they're pretty minimal too. Not as minimal as Zenit. I mean, they're all pretty much the same kind of style. They have some sort of like an animal or something to represent them. They're drawn this very geometric, very angular design. Looks like a geometry problem, right? So I mean, some people like this stuff. Like if you are somebody who is like really into like peak performance and and all that kind of stuff, then I mean, yeah, this like makes sense to you. But this is, yeah, it's not like my favorite kind of brand. It's not my favorite kind of image. I get it. There's some contradiction there because, you know, you want to have boards that are well made. I'm conflicted on this one. I think I'm gonna have to. For me, Rocket is kind of a B tier brand. I know a lot of people are gonna be bummed, pretty upset about that. I think A tier would be, I know in a lot of people's eyes, or maybe some people would even say S if there's some real fanboys. B tier for me for Rocket. Let's do Descent. Descent is a brand that, like, when I think of Descent, it can't be avoided. The cost of a Descent board is insane. They're almost Yep, they're almost $500 with shipping. I'm sure it's $500. They're $485, and I think that's a flat rate for pretty much every single board that they have. And, you know, they justify it because they say that they're, you know, their materials that they build them out of, you know, they're carbon, they're urethane, sidewalls, all that stuff, which, yeah, they are made of expensive materials, but there's other brands that make boards with, like, the same materials and they're not that expensive. So it's definitely hard to justify the cost on these. It's kind of insane. It also kind of takes away from the lightheartedness that is skateboarding, that it's not all that serious, because it's hard to say that it's not all that serious when you spend $500 on just the deck and you're probably going to pair it with Precisions. You're looking at $1,000 boards, easy, no problem, and that's like, that's serious, all right? So you're saying a lot when you're riding that kind of a setup. Their shapes are pretty aight. The Road Monster is insane. This thing is crazy, where you've got this regular stance. I mean, this goes with like this serious vibe, is that they are saying that you can't, you know, they could have just made this a traditional pointed nose, but they have exactly this shape so that it goes exactly to this, you know, stance, so that you have the least amount of weight possible with the board. That's like some like F1 race car stuff right there. So it's definitely hard to justify the cost. And not only that, but like they used to get in so much like social media drama with other people. It was a lot of times due to the fact that they have really slow response times on building these boards. I don't want to bag on them too much, but honestly, Descent is like, I don't know. I don't really like Descent too much. I feel like they're in like the C tier for me. Alright, the next one that we're going to do is Kebbek, or Kebbek. I don't know how to say it. I feel like it's Kebbek. Maybe like Quebec? Is that why they're called Kebbek? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they're based out of Quebec. They were kind of a bigger brand in the early 2010s. I don't really see them too much anymore. I think of Emily Prost when I think of Kebbek. They're pretty well respected back in the day. Like, I used to love watching Ben Dubry skate, Ben Dub. I don't even know if that guy skates anymore, but he was kind of a wild man. Definitely a cool person to watch skate. And you can't deny Emily Prost, absolute monster. But Kebbek is, I don't really see them too much anymore. I can only think of really these two riders on their team. They don't really have like a very strong brand presence. I don't see videos of people riding their boards too much. Kebbek's going to go in C tier as well for me. Because of that, I just don't really see them a huge amount. Alright, the next one, probably the one with like the strongest brand identity that I can think of, is Prism. Prism boards, they are made by just Tom Flunchbaugh and Liam Morgan, and they are making videos, they're building boards, they're having Madrid build their boards, but they're designing the boards, and they have awesome boards. Like they have their cruisers and stuff, but their downhill lineup is amazing, and their team lineup is great too. They had like pretty much exclusively like a freerider kind of a lineup. They had Cole, they had Liam, they had, you know, Tom and all those other dudes that are on the team too that I can't think of right now. But they're all extremely good freeriders, and they put out really good videos. They recently got Owen Fox in the last year, maybe 2 years. So that was like their first big like racer. They have very specific graphic ideas. So like for instance, they have the Cop Color series where they have all of these like what look like 1950s era American people that are, you know, looking very pleasant but are saying that they're calling the cops. It's kind of funny, but honestly their boards are really, really great concaves. They feel really good. I've never stood on one and felt like it wasn't good, although that Reaver, actually I take it back, that Reaver doesn't feel very good, but I'm really tall, so it's not really made for me. All the other ones, yeah, all the other ones are sick. Honestly, their big thing about Prism is their videos. They completely sell the boards. They make amazing videos. Whenever a Prism video drops, I don't watch it on my phone, I don't watch it on a laptop, I put that on the TV, alright? That's going up, and I'm grabbing a beer and I'm watching that, right? And that's, I think, the only videos, the only brand, maybe Red Dirt, that's pretty much it. Those two, I will sit down and watch on the TV, but those are like the only ones. And because of that, they make me want to buy their boards. And it honestly seems like a brand where when you buy their stuff, it goes towards videos and continuing to skate and live that kind of a lifestyle, which is kind of what you want when you buy a board. So Prism is going to go in the S tier for me. Pantheon. Pantheon is also a very well-respected brand. Pantheon, Jeff Vane out of Colorado. I think he used to live in Pennsylvania, but moved to Colorado about 6-7 years ago, maybe? Maybe I'm a little off on that. But been building really, really cool boards consistently. And one thing is that Jeff always posts a lot of stuff on, specifically, I don't know about Instagram, but definitely on Facebook, about his board design process, which makes it feel like he's putting a lot of effort into each and every detail of the board, which is cool, but he also has this vibe with these graphics that's very artistic. And I feel like the difference between Pantheon and, say, like Rocket is that it doesn't always feel like every little detail needs to be about performance. Some of these are just, the rail is designed this way because it's just a beautiful line. And there's a little bit more artistry in the board shaping, specifically in Pantheon versus other brands. I mean, this Hierophant is an amazing shape. The tail is awesome. The nose is tapered very nicely. I mean, all in all, it's a great looking, lot of great looking boards. And I really appreciate that they didn't go full carbon race car-esque with this Pantheon, with the new Chase board. Really like that. Why is there a Corvette here? Is that like... That's strange. Okay. But yeah, Pantheon, great team. Chase, like probably one of the GOATs. Pretty great out there. Amazing team. Great boards. Pantheon also in the S tier. Powell Peralta. Powell is kind of like Madrid in that they have been around for a super long time. They aren't really... Can I even look at their... Yeah, they don't even have like a spot... Well, they don't sell their boards anymore. That's the huge thing, is that you can't really get them. Because it's just not cost effective for the brand to build downhill boards, because they cost so much for them to build. But what they do build is sick, pretty much. The K-Rhymes board, dog. The Byron board, dog. The mini Byron board, not... Actually, that one's not very good. But they are building a new one from what it looks like, and it looks like it's going to be a lot better, because the old one had flex. I mean, come on, it's got flex? That's bad. You have a downhill board that has flex, nobody wants that. Powell's going to go in the A tier for me. I mean, they could be S. They could be S if you could get a board from them still, and maybe if they made a few more boards too. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that they are, you know, as good as these top three up here. GMR is like a bizarre brand. Like, I can barely tell if they're actually a brand, because it seems more like other board companies are building their boards. Like, they don't have a website. They do have Facebook. Let's look at their Facebook. They have a Facebook, but I don't know. It definitely seems like garage projects, and I think they're well made. I don't think it's very easy to get them, though, and they pretty much just have the Tucker. They had this board, I forget what it was called. It was like Misho Urban's board, but they don't really make that anymore. It's a drop through. But it's super like racer. Like, if you look at these graphics, they're usually no graphic, or in this case, like look, you've got like the checkered flag. Like, how much more race car could you get with it? So they're, I don't know what to say about them. I'll put them in the C tier. It's not, you know, a bad brand or anything. You can't get their boards. They barely design boards. They're like a vibe, and that's it pretty much. And they have just the Tucker. That's it. Next one up is Rolling Tree. Rolling Tree is an interesting brand. They don't really make too many boards. They have the Acedio, which is kind of like their free ride board. They have these three that are like the Brahms, and, you know, I don't know if they're really actually that different. They're really not. They just are signed by them. But also they're, you know, through GMR, which is super confusing. It's like pretty much a Tucker shape with the Acedia concave with GMR written on them, but made by Rolling Tree. So a bit of a brand collaboration there. Kind of strange. Not really sure like what to think about that, but I've stood on before. They're really comfortable because, again, it's the Acedia concave. Feels really great. Really great boards, really well made. Can't really think of much of a the team. There's not really a team because I think all these guys are signed with GMR, even though they're pretty much Rolling Tree boards. But we're going to put Rolling Tree in the B tier just because I'm not seeing much videos from them. I'm not seeing a lot of team. Yeah. Last one. Whew, finally. Okay, cool. Last one is Comet. So Comet's a weird brand. They used to make a ton of boards, and now they're under new ownership, and they are very, very focused now. And it feels like what they decided to do is they have one downhill board. They have one slashing board. They have a cruiser. It's called the Cruiser, right? And I feel like what they've decided to do is they've decided to make the best version of whatever the skate discipline is. And they have that one. I kind of like that it's really focused. That's cool. The only problem I feel is they have this complete only purchase style where they only allow you to buy it if it's a complete. And yeah, that kind of goes with their style of saying, like, this is the best version of what you can get for a cruiser. This is the best version of what you can get for a downhill board. But look at this. This is $750. And one thing that people like to do in downhill or in longboarding in general is to customize their setup. And it's not really like that necessarily in other skate disciplines, but in these, people want to have like their board be like a reflection of their identity. And if you're saying, no, this is what you want, here's the best, take this, that's like, people don't like that. I don't like that. I like to be able to customize my board to my liking. So we're going to throw Comet. Comet's going down to B from that. Like, I do like their focused idea, but at the same time I don't, because it takes away from the fun of customizing your setup. So there it is. Boom. Tier list. Done.